Welcome to Project Metis. Project Metis will focus on the speculative evolution of 3 habitable moons of the gas giant Metis. The gas giant and its collection of moons orbit Zeus 135 within the habitable zone. Named after the first wife of Zeus, Metis is a protector of 3 unique life-sustaining worlds, Athena, Niki, and Eric, short for Erichthonius. On Athena, a majority of the surface is covered in liquid water, with only small island continents in the north and south, leaving most of Athena with wide areas of open ocean and volcanic island chains. These conditions have allowed for life to evolve and flourish on Athena. Previously, we had discussed the development of photosynthetic life during the Anthizo explosion, the first great age for life in Athena. These photosynthetic organisms, specifically the group known as the Peripedia, have paved the way for the conquest of the terrestrial biome of Athena. In their wake, we will see the other organisms of Athena follow onto the shores of this ocean planet. This land conquest of Athenian life will mark a new era known as the Niki Expansion. This time will be marked by the progression of life onto land and by the emergence of the first forest biomes. By the end of the Niki, some species will make permanent residence on the islands. However, to truly understand how and why life on Athena claimed the land, we must first acknowledge how the land on this ocean world is created. The host planet of Metis maintains a gravitational influence on the ocean moon, controlling both the oceanic tides and the geothermal flow of Athena. As the moon orbits the gas giant, the gravity of the larger world pulls at Athena, causing both tide and magma to shift towards the surface of Athena. Athena rotates Metis 11 million kilometers away, giving it strong tidal shifts and volcanism. However, though Athena has strong tidal shifts and volcanism, they are not at a level that is detrimental for life on Athena, at least for now. The volcanism of Athena is the energy that started life in its deep seas, and it will be the source of the new frontier for Athenian life. Oceanic volcanic islands are the tops of volcanic mountains formed by eruptions over several million years of basaltic lava. Magma erupting from cracks on the deep sea floor begin to accumulate over time, building layer after layer to form volcanic cones. Some of these volcanic cones will rise out of the sea, forming islands. These islands may remain active for some time after emerging from the sea, but eventually the vast ocean of Athena will erode the island back into its abyss. These temporary land areas will be an excellent host of species radiation as organisms learn to not only exploit all of the resources the land has to offer, but they will also learn to island hop in order to continue their access to the riches of the terrestrial biome. The first creatures to venture into land after the photosynthetic Peripedia are the Podosoma. The hard exoskeleton of the Podosoma give both protection and structure to the creature, aiding in land movement. Also, the exoskeleton allows for water to be stored effectively within the bodies of these creatures, giving them the ability to explore the dry land for longer periods of time to access the endless bounty of food. During the early Niki expansion, the first Podosoma had total reign over this new territory and had no competition or predators on the land. Originally conquering the shores of the island of Dori, this clade will eventually have descendants that will walk all of Athena's coastlines by the mid-Niki expansion. However, the Podosoma will remain limited in their expansion, as this clade will continue to need water for their breeding processes. 2 distinct body forms developed within the Podosoma. The Carida evolved to feature large horns on their facial structures, while the members of the have other exaggerated body structures. Of the Carida branch we see the Megalopoda and the Megalopoda. The Megalopoda are one of the first to adapt to the land. The Megalopoda exhibit the extravagant horns of the Carida group, but the Megalopoda also have long legs that aid in securing these animals to rock formations and tidal zones during tidal shifts and storm events. In these tidal regions, they are well suited to consume Peripedia off of rock formations. During low tide, when water is no longer available along the shore, the Megalopoda faced no competition for vast quantities of plant matter by traveling over land. It is not well understood how or why the Podosoma originally evolved to have these horns, but one theory may suggest these structures evolved to act as a form of protection from the predatory Calaphosoma, but it is often seen that these horns are used as a means of interspecies conflict and sexual displays. No matter how elaborate the head structures, it is the strengthening of the legs that gave Megalopoda the ability to venture further into land, as the plant life also expanded further inland in more permanent forms. The Megalopoda radiated into a variety of shapes and sizes as species adapted to specializations. On some islands, a group of Megalopoda may adapt to eating different parts of plants at different times of the year, allowing for many different species to coexist with little competition as they exploited different niches. This trend is shown throughout the Nikki as time progressed. The Megalopoda first dominated the shallow seas of Athena. The Megalopoda radiate in a similar way to occupy many niches, but first within the expanses of the bluevine kelp forests. The longer bodies of the Megalopoda aids in their maneuverability while swimming, with stronger front limbs for gripping and walking movement. Later in the mid-Niki expansion, the Megalopoda adapt to land exploration by losing the limbs on the ends of their bodies. These land Megalopoda have short, wispy tails as they have strengthened the legs on the upper parts of their bodies to aid them in colonizing cliff faces and volcanic mountain sides around the ocean world. Meanwhile, for the Megalopoda, landfall meant they would radiate into a wide variety of species. Megalopoda colors, shapes, and sizes diversified across the planet as this class used their fan-like tail filaments for mating displays. These extraordinary tails also allow swimming movement for the creatures as they travel through various island chains in search of suitable conditions for mating and laying their water-bound eggs. Across Athena, Megalopoda can be found dancing on shorelines and within tidal zones. The Megalostoma are the largest group of species within the Podosoma clade as these creatures have adapted to be the first to occupy the scavenger niche of the land. These creatures have evolved in response to the wide range of diverse species present in the early Niki expansion, and so have multiplied to become specialized scavengers of specific Athenian species, allowing for an equally wide assortment of these large mandible creatures to roam the islands. The Danana will be the children of Athena to take the true title of predator on the land by the mid-Niki. Just as their Podosoma forerunners had, the Danana will radiate into a bizarre and vast assortment of species. The Danana are not only categorized by body shape however, but also by their distinctive claws appendage structure. Originating on the island of Cranus and Dori, these well-adapted hunters will come to dominate the food webs of Athena by the late Niki expansion. The Danana have their first division at the start of the Niki. The clades split into those with a proper hinged claw, and those with spear claws. The Diodari have the hinged claw, making them exceptionally skilled in foraging and hunting other Athenian creatures, while the spear claws of the Doritus assist this group primarily with self-defense, digging and scavenging. The Paroxeno group are the strangest creatures of Athena thus far to evolve. The Asymmetry and the Monoclino are two bizarre families of creatures that have unique adaptations for their native island of Dori. Both families of the Paroxeno have evolved their claw structures to specifically consume the structures of the flora of Dori. For the Asymmetry, they only develop one hinged claw. These bizarre asymmetrical creatures use their hinged claw to bring chunks of Mautrano plant matter into their mouths. These creatures emerged into a land of unexploited food sources in the beginning of the Niki, marking them as the very first of the Danana to make land a significant refuge. At the time of their emergence, this class had no competition, and seems to have evolved to have lost one claw as there was no need to expend resources for a second appendage while obtaining vast quantities of food. The Monoclino however, eat the lowest, deepest parts of root systems, and require their spear claw for digging and the hinged claw for tearing. Both the Asymmetry and the Monoclino have replicated into a collection of unique body types and features to fully utilize the resources of the island of Dori. These creatures will be unchallenged on the island until their carnivorous cousins join them on land in the late Niki expansion. The Macries are the next group of the Danana to step into the shores of Athena. These animals feature long bodies and large hinged claws. These Macries were the first true predators of the Athenian beaches. The Macries became accustomed to preying on the Podosoma and their cousin Danana as well. Though finding dominion on the rocky and sandy shores, the Macries also found success in the shallow seas of Athena preying on the creatures of the kelp forests of the bluevine. However, as the Niki expansion continued, the Macries would fall into the shadow of their more successful cousins. The Euros emerged in the warm Plausius Ocean amongst the Dori, Cranus and the Strategiki Islands. The Euros are regarded as major players in the early Niki. The Euros ruled over many food webs of Athena both in the kelp forests and on land with their powerful claws, hardened armor, and superior camouflage. These specialized adaptations to both the kelp forests and eventually the land allow these children of Athena to radiate into a vast collection of species. These generalist creatures consume carcasses, eggs, Podosoma and other Danana. This generalized diet also aids this class to adapt with changing conditions and fluctuations in competition for resources as the Niki continues. Far from the grasps of the Euros are the Dorimisan. Unlike many others of their clade, the Dorimisan radiate in the polar region of the southern Nodus Ocean. The Dormesan adapt and specialize in digging and scavenging amongst the rocky, icy sea floors of Athena. Some even adapt to consume the hard ostophyto that occupy the region. Across the frigid shores and bays of the island of Orgy, these resilient creatures have begun to slowly venture onto land for mating displays and to lay their eggs in fresh water. This transition to land and the integration of fresh water into their reproductive process will give the Dormesan the edge into the late Niki Expansion, as they will eventually be the first of the Danana to truly move beyond the sea permanently. The Dorosoma developed in the fertile waters of the Plausius. This class is characterized by their spear-like claws and for the additional appendage on the end of their tail. In the early to middle Niki, these tail structures were commonly spear-like stinger or hooked structures for basic defense. As the Dorosoma evolve further, venom will be produced and ejected from their tail and/or claws for further protection and defensive purposes. Meanwhile, the species of the Phydae class adapt to improve their maneuverability. Ranging from the tropical shallow seas to the icy waters of the south, these elongated organisms primarily utilized their claws for interspecies conflict and for minimal digging within the rocky shallows. The Phydae have also adapted to have control of their metabolism. These creatures can engage in prolonged periods of little to no food depending on the environmental conditions. This will allow these animals to endure hard periods of time with little food available. The fascinating Cirra are the last to radiate in the Niki Expansion. Unlike their Danana cousins, the Cirra of the middle Niki instead adapted into the murky depths of Athena. Ranging from the island continent of Boreas to the island of Kronos, the Cirra will evolve to utilize filament structures across their bodies to catch microbes along deep ocean currents. By the middle Niki, the Cirra are the first of the scleroderma to develop bioluminescence. The Cirra use their lights within the deep, murky depths to attract any possible food or microorganisms. These deep-sea organisms colonize the depths mostly unchallenged, and will continue to evolve into this dark domain, while the rest of the children of Athena compete for their place on land. Next time, we will continue to explore the early to middle Niki Expansion. We will take a closer look at the development of life in the Western Hemisphere, and we will watch as other organisms of Athena find their own unique ways to inhabit the land. Until then, never stop exploring, and never cease to wonder what this beautiful universe may hold. Thank you for watching, and make sure to like and subscribe to check out future entries for Project Metis.